Welcome to Leveraging Your Reality, where mindset meets movement. I'm Shavon Terrell-Camper, your partner in growth as you become a healthier you, a healthier parent, and a healthier spouse. Today, I really want to talk about my love for reading and how it evolved. Because let me tell you, I did not used to like reading. It's so real. Because anytime I read something, I went to sleep. Even in college, like I found ways to not read as much because I just wasn't introduced to the concept of reading, or I didn't understand, like, why do I have to read so much? And in my comments, in my description, you all see that I have support the channel, buy me a book. I love reading. Like, that's a true, real statement. I have read hundreds of books at this point. So this all started back when I was young and I had my two kids already. I was still living in New York and I was traveling. My day was so routine. I would wake up in the morning, get the kids ready. After I got the kids ready, I would put them in a car, take them to daycare, drive 45 minutes to go to work in Queens, and then work all day, come back, drive the 45 minutes, pick up the kids, come home, cook, and like get the kids ready for bed and put them down to bed. And I remember driving to work really questioning, is this my life? Like, is this what I rush to get to adulthood for? A routine that has me so trapped in that I could barely even breathe. And I remember in that moment just deeply questioning myself and questioning how things work, because I just couldn't understand how people were making sense of this type of routine. I knew I couldn't be the only one in this routine. And I had just started working at a library in Queens, and it was so funny because I remember I would watch people and think to myself, why are they here? This is a building full of books. Like, what is so interesting about these books that people come in? Like, I didn't have a real relationship with the library, so I just didn't understand it. I mean, at all. But every time I looked up, there were people in there. My role at the library is like, yeah, how does someone like me end up working at the library? My role at the library was a case manager. They had an adult learning program, which I love. Shout out to the ALP. And in this program, it was English as a people learning English as a second language. It was people going back to get their GED, and the library had programs to support them in their process. And I was brought in as a social worker to help people navigate the barriers that might come up for themselves as they get through their education. And that day when I was fighting my routine, fighting everything, I sat there and said, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, there's a secret in these books that can answer why the heck this is all working the way it's working. Like, I just couldn't figure out like why adulthood was the way it was. So I did the genius thing that I did, and probably many people did at that time. We went to Google. So I Googled the secret book. And in my head, I was like, there must be a secret. So there must be a book named The Secret. So I looked up the book. We had a book called The Secret at the library. I was like, perfect. This is the book I'm going to read. It's going to answer all my questions. And now everything is going to make sense. So the only problem was I actually still didn't want to read. Like, I had zero interest in reading with the little window of time I had. But they had downloads. So this is before Audible even came out. I downloaded, actually Audible could have been out at that time, who knows. But I downloaded the book, and on now my 45 minutes to and from work became me listening to this book. And I found it fascinating. I was like, whoa, manifestation. I never heard of this. This is really interesting. And that's what my love for reading started. Although I wasn't reading yet quite, it was my first step into receiving knowledge that people had from books. And I went on to watch, I found out there was a documentary. I watched the documentary. And most people go through their rebellious teenage years in their teens. Like, they're just rebellious. My mother was way too scary for that. I wasn't brave enough to be openly rebellious, like with my mom right there. So my rebellion started in my 20s when I know my mother couldn't take my behind up anymore. And that's when I just was, all right, back to the story. I get excited because like it's a real story that started my love for reading. So after I finished The Secret, I was really curious about like what else do these people have to say? Like this is interesting. I've never thought about this concept. And I think my love for reading was coming out of curiosity and questions and just tired of dealing with the way things were. Like I just couldn't accept in my 20s that I was going to spend the rest of my life operating like this. There was nothing in me that could make sense of it. So from there, I just started reading books and I was drawn to leadership development books. And I have no clue why. It was just a topic that every time I looked up books, those books drew me out. And I kept downloading the books, and my car turned into my education. This is where I learned about continuous education and to and from work. Now that 45 minutes went from being, oh my gosh, I have to drive 45 minutes to, oh shoot, I have 45 minutes to listen to this book that has some interesting concepts. This is great. I think when you fast forward, the story gets really interesting because I later ended up getting a job as a leadership trainer. And if I had not had that angst in my life of why is my life like this? This is not what adulthood is like. I would have never started listening to books. I would have never dug into the topic of leadership development. And the job that I went for, I had never led people. I had never done training. The only thing that helped to qualify me was I had read an insane amount of books on the topic of leadership. So I could talk, I could be in conversation and talk about it. And I actually loved talking about the concept. So it's so funny how sometimes we are drawn to things that don't make sense. But I say, like, keep going, keep going. And now when we fast forward to today, I continue to read. The type of reading that I'm on right now are memoirs and autobiographies. I'm learning so much by reading other people's stories. So I want to tell you about my most recent one I finished. My one of my business coach recommended this book called Educated by Tara Westover, and the book was interesting, like really interesting. You have a woman that's growing up in rural, I think it was rural Utah, with a dad who had undiagnosed bipolar, and her life was crazy. She didn't have traditional education, and her brother broke the rule, went to college, and she decided she was gonna enroll in college too. He pushed her. She ended up going to Cambridge and to Harvard, like top universities in the country, to continue her education. But her story is so real because so many of us spend time being in imposter syndrome and worried about, am I enough? Do I have enough? And I think she's a great example of leveraging your reality because she took her situation and navigated and figured it out and kept asking questions to find her way through. So often we get stuck in situations and we stay stuck complaining about it. When we complain about things, we're making a statement. When we make a statement, our brain doesn't do much to figure anything out because we haven't posed a question to it. When you are really stuck, how you begin to leverage your reality is by asking questions. When you ask yourself questions, your brain consciously and subconsciously is going to work to figure it out. This is how I was drawn to the book. I had been working at the library for months now, and I had not once thought about reading a book. But the moment I stopped complaining about my life and I started asking myself questions, it turned into, boom, here's an answer. Here's a book you could read. And that right there was the turn of, Shavon, you need to spend more time asking questions than you do complaining. And that right there helped me to like really start out that concept of leveraging my reality. What question do I need to be asking myself? What question do I need to be asking myself? And whenever I don't know, one of the top 3 steps that I take is to look up a book about the topic to start reading it, and that begins to open up my mind, helps me to ask more questions. I like reading people's memoirs because, man, people have crazy stories. And when I read their stories, one, it always reminds me, girl, your life is not that bad because none of that is happening. And that makes me like, okay, chill out. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. And then it reminds me of the importance of resilience and pushing past like the present moment. Because there are so many times where we have zoomed so far into our situation that it looks bigger than what it is. And when we allow ourselves to zoom back out and put it into perspective, it's this realization of, you know what? This may be big in this moment, but I'm probably making it bigger by putting all my focus and all my attention onto it. Let me zoom out. And that's what this book really made me do in those moments when I feel inadequate or I'm not good enough. I think like, oh, Tara done she made it to Harvard, she made it to Cambridge, and she didn't even have a foundation of a strong education background. And it reminds me too, like, I don't have to know everything. I have to have a willingness to learn and scrape my knees and figure it out and cry and bleed along the way to moving past where I am. I want all of you to keep that in mind is when you're in that tough situation and it is hard and it seems like there's no way out, complaining is not going to get you the results you want. It's going to keep you entrenched in the situation that you're in. Questions are going to make the difference. And as you ask yourself questions, you have begun to leverage your reality, and those questions will begin to show your next steps. Like things will appear. Somebody will have a conversation with you. A book will come across your desk. An article will come into your inbox. A course will be emailed to you. The answers will begin to show themselves in many ways. So look at those parts of your life where you find yourself in high complaint mode and transition into high question mode. Remember, growth is not always easy, but when you're doing it in partnership with others, it becomes a lot more possible. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe and share it below with someone who needs the message. We don't grow alone, people. We grow together. Until next time, keep showing up and keep leveraging your reality.